right, so that was kind of a neat little overview of why we're doing these things. We'll have actually more time to dedicate to the question of why. But first of all, I would like to ask you if you remember what we started our modality of Qigong coaching with. Do you remember what the first webinar, or the first part of this training was dedicated to?
Wasn't it dedicated to knowing yourself and being able to connect with your client through the deeper part of your being, the underside of the iceberg?
Thank you.
Right, and by learning who you are, that enables you to actually know who your client is and be able to listen to them, so you can help them, live their dream.
Thank you. You remember?
Are we talking about this particular module,
Yes.
or from the very beginning of?
This particular module, there were 6 webinars,
Right.
and I'm talking about the very first one. And it was not about what you just talked about. There was the second one, and we'll cover that today as well. The first one was what? What is it? What is Qigong coaching? The second is...
Of course.
Okay, that makes sense.
Alright, so...
Okay.
Right, what is Qigong coaching is a question that I often receive when people, for example, look at my business card or visit my website and they go, Qigong coaching. Or they look at my business card and it says, Qigong Master Coach. And they say, so are you a Qigong Master and a coach? Or you're a Master Coach who also does Qigong? I say, well, neither one of them. I'm actually creator of Qigong coaching, and Qigong coaching is the discipline in which you become a master, or you can basically master this discipline. And I just kind of self-assigned myself the title of a Qigong Master Coach. And they say, oh, okay, so how's it working out for you? I said, it works okay. As a matter of fact, it's my favorite question. So, what happens is that, what happened is that I realized over a period of time when I was operating Portland Qigong Clinic that people would really benefit from receiving my sessions, doing some practices with me, coming for either a class or a private session, and it was nice to see the transformation that the person would experience in just a matter of 1 hour, or sometimes even less. But then I would send them home, schedule another appointment, maybe for next week or in a couple of weeks, and over this period of time, a week or two, they would noticeably backslide. They would literally revert back to whatever they were doing to themselves all along. And so the following session, I would often start basically from square one and do the same treatment again and help them experience transformation, and then they would go home and then they would go through the same rigmarole again. So I finally started realizing that something needs to be changed about this particular setup, this particular dynamics. And what I realized needed to be changed was people didn't seem to do what they were told to do. They wouldn't do the homework. I would tell them, okay, well, here's the meditation for you. Here's the exercises that I want you to do. Here's this body alignments that I want you to observe and keep. And here's the certain mental attitudes that I want you to work on. And they would promptly forget. Even if they jotted down, they would just simply get busy with a million things that people get busy with in their daily lives. Or sometimes they would have internal resistance to authority. It's like they come to me as an authority and I give them certain prescription and then they go home, and basically that's what most doctors always complain about. The lack of
Patient compliance.
compliance, exactly. So, I had to figure out what to do about it. And I literally started studying with dozens of different experts in the fields of psychology, neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis. I thought maybe I should just hypnotize these people. And they will just do what I told them to do because they don't have any choice in that. But then I realized, they wouldn't actually feel empowered. So I do hypnosis if necessary. I can definitely hypnotize people, and I may even include some of the training in hypnosis in our further parts of our apprenticeship program if you're interested in. But I realized that people actually need to make decisions for themselves, because then they can follow through on these decisions a lot easier than any decisions that somebody shoved down their throat. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is that I stopped prescribing things to people, and I started asking them, so what do you think would happen if you go back to your habitual way of being? And most people would be intelligent enough to say, well, most likely I would be experiencing what I used to experience. And then I would ask them again, well, is there anything that you could do differently? Well, yeah, you just showed me some moves or some techniques or some meditation practices that would be different. Well, is there anything that would stop you from doing that over the course of the next week or two? And sometimes they would come up with, well, yeah, my family obligations would probably distract me, my job will probably make me tired, I'll probably get distracted by some media or whatever. Okay, is there anything that you can do to mitigate that distraction? So basically I would actually get them to walk through the process of solving their own compliance issue. And they would solve that compliance issue more or less. And that was really helpful for me to transition to this methodology. And at that time it didn't have a name, but I moved to Guam in 2006. And that's basically when I had to continue working with my students and coaching clients long distance. And so that's basically when I said, this is going to be an official designation. We call it Qigong coaching. And so I actually announced it at the National Qigong Association conference. All right, people, guess what? There is a new modality out in town, and it's called Qigong coaching. And it's really cool because it works like this, and it does this, and these are the benefits of it, and these are the results. And so I actually demonstrated a few case studies. And people were pretty happy to hear that, but of course they also were like, but that's a really different approach. I said, yeah, it's a new school as opposed to the old school. You guys are all used to doing things the old way. The old school in Qigong studies is what? There is a Qigong master or teacher who knows better than the students what to do and how to do it. So he tells them, well, don't stand like this, stand like that. Okay, no, you're doing this wrong. Your arms shouldn't be like this, they should be like that. And you are not doing this moves right. The elbow should be here, not there. And, okay, now do form. Just follow how I do this. Okay, now here, now there. Okay, got it? All right, just do this 9 times, or 18 times, or 27 times, or whatever number of times it will be. And breathe like this. Oh, you're not doing it right. You need to breathe deep. And so basically it's like an old school. You probably all know how that goes. And it's a very dysfunctional way to train people, because it just tells people that they're doing it wrong, they should be doing it that way. But the transition from one way to another is a very questionable part of this training. And with a right way to do it, sometimes may be right for one person, but not always the right for everybody else. And different people may actually require different transition stepping stones. And so basically, what we developed is a result of years of trial and error, or R&D, research and development, was basically a methodology that can take virtually anyone from wherever the place is the person is at, and ask them, where do you want to be? Instead of telling them where they should be, we actually engage in a conversation. Where do you want to be? What is your dream? And then help them potentially make this dream a little bit more vivid. Maybe if they're not even sure what the dream is, help them come up with a creative dream development method. And once they've identified what the dream is, instead of telling them, okay, this is a good dream or this is a bad dream, we just simply say, okay, now let's figure out how to transition from where you're at to what you're dreaming of. And essentially, that's the reason why I often say that Qigong coaching is the art of helping people manifest and live their dreams. That's a pretty bold claim, but this is exactly what we're doing. So, what is the difference between Qigong coaching and other applications or methods in Qigong world? Well, let me ask you, what do you think the distinctions are? And this is something that a lot of people may be asking you if they hear you say, oh, I studied Qigong coaching, or I'm a certified Qigong coach, and they'll be like, what's that? And how is it different from just taking Qigong class at YMCA? What would you say?
Coaching empowers you. Going to the class, you just get the benefits of the maybe getting in the flow during the class. When you leave, you're still just, you're probably going to slide back to the old person. Coaching empowers you to actually be that when you walk out the door.
Very well. Right on. What about you?
I would say that coaching allows a person to really individualize their own training so that they will be able to actually take away a lot more than they would have from some kind of cookie cutter approach.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the big challenges that many Qigong and Tai Chi teachers have presented to me. Hey, this is nice, what you're describing sounds really cool, but you can't work with a group. How do you do this if there is a group of people, a class or a workshop? You say, well, what do you think? Do you think I've never taught group classes? Do you think I never presented workshops? I've been presenting workshops since 1999 and teaching classes way before that. I started teaching classes back in Russia in 1989 or 1990. What does it mean? It means, yeah, there's a big difference between the way that you teach a class versus the way that you coach a class. It's a group coaching experience. And we'll go into that in more detail very quickly, very soon. But yeah, I totally agree that there is more personalized experience for a person going through coaching. What do you think, Nancy?
Teaching is usually a process in which the teacher is kind of sending out information and the students or participants are receiving information. So it seems like it's a pretty set role relationship, right?
Yeah.
And coaching actually through asking questions from like group question to what is this group wanting, which is interesting because that's more tantra in the sense you have to give myself and others. But the questioning process shifts the role tremendously, where it's not just somebody receiving information, but it puts them to task a little bit.
Absolutely. It actually challenges and engages the intelligence.
Yeah, and just absorbing something versus actually being engaged with that which is being absorbed.
Cool. Thank you. What do you think about it?
I'm kind of like coming up with my answer as I'm hearing all of
sure.
you guys talk. But one of my experiences have been like I feel like we're rewiring our brains in a way, right? In the
No,
coaching.
don't do that.
I'm just in a second. The fan, I'm turning the fan off.
Okay, thanks. Don't touch.
Don't touch.
No.
Can't touch the fan? You want the blades going?
It's okay.
Okay.
No problem.
It was making.
It's creating like a strobe light
Right,
effect.
yeah, and then that window up there is so bright, and so I'm just like, my brain is like,
I go,
So I'm trying,
Stimulation.
it's a little too much. So I didn't, sorry about the lighting, I meant to hit the fan.
Yeah.
In our coaching, I feel like we've been rewiring our brains, right? In the same, like teaching is like you're saying, like you were saying, like we like do these, right? We're doing repetition methods, right?
Mhm.
What we've been learning, and like we are learning to make mistakes, and that mistakes are learning experiences, right?
Mhm.
Well, before with teaching, right, it's like right or wrong, right? Which I think like is like a huge difference
Yeah.
between the teaching and the coaching. And you're learning on your on your own. You're learning your body rather than somebody telling you like how to move when they don't even know how it feels to be in your own body.
Yeah. Totally.
So that's the difference that I see between teaching and coaching. I think, like for us, we're learning to embody our bodies, right? To embody
Right.
be part of this body, and feel comfortable with it, and move with it rather than somebody telling us you should move this way.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. So I totally agree with each and every one of your assessment or assertions about the coaching, and obviously many of them reflect back to me what I already said in the past, but one of the major aspects of coaching is recognizing that the person has dreams, and if they have a dream, they must have some energy associated or responsible for creating the dream in the first place. So they already have certain capacity to connect with the dream and potentially use that energy to manifest that dream. So what we do is essentially we empower the coaching clients to tap into that resource within themselves. We cannot do the empowerment for them, they have to empower themselves. There are certain applications of our practice where we can do empowerment for other people. For example, if a person is hurt, we can do practice of empowerment and then bring energy into their body. Yeah, it works, and it can be very helpful therapeutically. It can be done potentially as a part of the coaching session if you see the person face to face. But most of my coaching clients nowadays are scattered all over the world. I cannot do that for them through the computer, internet connections. So I basically have to work with them in a way that they would empower themselves. Most of them have not even gone through the practice of empowerment, so I cannot just suggest to them, okay, now go ahead and do practice of empowerment. That would be really nice. Except because I've never met them face to face, I've never initiated them into the practice, so they have no idea what it is. However, there are some other ways that are possibilities, or that are ways to help a person basically experience self-empowerment. For example, one of the reasons why people experience disempowerment or feel like they're not empowered is because they have judgments about themselves. Like, I did something wrong in the past, or I feel guilty about something that I said or done, or I did made some kind of mistake, and now I'm suffering the consequences. That's all disempowering self-talk. For example, if you imagine an athlete having this kind of self-talk as they go into any type of competition or contest, they would suck, because they would just completely like pull the rug from under themselves. So sports psychologists help their clients remove this self-talk like this, perhaps replace it with a positive self-talk. That's nice. What we're doing is not quite like what sports psychologists do, because we realize it's not all about sports, it's about life. So we basically help people develop experience empowerment through changing the way that they think of themselves and the rest of the world. Like I was talking about filters of perception. It would literally help them realize that filters of perception are interchangeable, and you can replace one of them with another one, and you will see everything differently, almost instantly. For many people, it is like aha moment. A light bulb goes on, and they go, "Wow, I never thought about it this way." For other people, it may be a slower, smoother transition, which is both fine. What happens is that we help people discover for themselves that whatever they experienced in the past is not the reason to feel like they're screwed now. I mean, some experiences in the past may cause certain difficulty or certain challenges in the present moment, sure. For example, I lost my eyesight. One of my eyes still can't see. That certainly threw a wrench in the wheel, so to speak, in the works. I couldn't be professional martial artists, which I thought I might become. Well, guess what? I actually designed and created an even better career for myself. So, in a sense, it was a turning point. Instead of my journey coming to a screeching halt and I'm standing there banging the head against the wall since then, the journey continues. It's just going in a different direction. That's one of the key elements in helping people overcome their perspectives on their own past. Whatever you experienced in the past, if it was a problem, if it was a challenge, if it was a setback, can you perceive it as a turning point in your journey? And if they can, then they no longer perceive it as a problem. As a matter of fact, they may actually feel grateful for having that experience because it turned out to be a great learning opportunity. And that's exactly what we want to facilitate. We'll have a more focus on the discussion, focus more on this subject in the afternoon, but definitely this is one of the key aspects of our field of studies, helping people overcome their disempowering self-talk. Another thing that also happens energetically is that for anything to manifest in your life, any event, any experience, in order for that to manifest, there needs to be energy that would support that manifestation. If nothing is supporting the manifestation of any particular dream, the dream never manifests, basically it remains a dream. And if somebody else contributes that energy, then it's not going to be you who experiences it. Somebody else contributed energy to manifestation of this dream. They are the ones who are going to be experiencing it. Now what happens? Well, we realize that we must have contributed certain energy to every experience that we experienced in our lives. What does it mean? Well, for some people it means that they start feeling really crappy because they feel like, oh my God, so I created that? Oh shit, I didn't even think that I should be guilty of that. Well, that's not the cause for feeling more guilty because we already worked on that just a minute ago. We realized that yes, there was some energy that we contributed to all of our events. Now, how will you continue contributing this energy so that you continue creating this kind of events in your life? If you stay the same way that you used to be, you're more likely tapping into the same energy resources and contributing the same energies, so that likely you will be getting similar results. If you want different results, you need to do something differently. Not just doing, it's a matter of being. You actually need to be somehow different from the way that you used to be. Which means it actually is about shifting our sense of identity. We literally have to become a different person. Now, some people think that their sense of identity is really rigid or stiff. They cannot even imagine being somebody who they aren't at the present moment. Have you ever met anybody like that? The funny thing is that they all experience change. Obviously, they were children at one point, and then they were teenagers at some other point. And then they maybe grew up and became adults at some point, maybe became middle-aged or elderly. In other words, they went through all kinds of changes. It's just those changes happen spontaneously and most likely unconsciously. What we're talking about is making these changes consciously at will. Now, for most people, in order to make something that used to be unconscious conscious, they need to refocus their attention. And if we're talking about ourselves and our unconscious, then we basically have to focus attention on ourselves. And that's what most people lack in their consciousness. They often don't pay much attention to themselves. They pay attention to other people, or to their jobs, or to their house, or to their environment. They pay attention to pretty much everything else around them. Media, watch TV, or, go to some social events or whatever. Social media. What happens is where attention goes, energy flows. And when we don't pay attention to ourselves, we feel like our energy is going everywhere except back to us. Often people get into this funny modus operandi, where they feel like they need to get some energy. And instinctively they realize that if they attract attention of other people, they will get some energy from them. Have you ever met anyone in your life who would do things or say things or wear things or drive certain things that would attract attention, and they would literally thrive on that attention? They're kind of like energy vampire. Like person basically just keeps on sucking your energy by attracting more and more of your attention. And that's exactly why. It's because the person forgot that they have the ability to tap into the massive energy resource within themselves. In order to tap into the internal energy resources, people need to pay attention to themselves. And when you pay attention to yourself, where does energy flow? Back to yourself. In other words, you create a massive circulation of energy within your own system. That circulation of energy is another way to experience empowerment. So you literally feel like, wow, there is a massive flow of life force happening within my own energy system. I don't have to suck energy from other people anymore. So we don't want to be like those energy vampires ourselves, do we? Because it's not really fun to be in their company. And we want to be people whose company is appealing and attractive and magnetic instead of repulsive. So what we do is essentially we create this sense of empowerment by paying more attention to ourselves. We can pay attention to a particular part of our own body. When bringing attention to that part of the body, we also bring energy, which facilitates healing. That's how we experience healing of particular parts of the body, or internal organs, or certain energy centers. If we do this on a consistent basis, we feel really healthy. This is one of the key elements to wellness. That's one of the key elements that I had to actually coach my clients even back then when I had my Qigong coaching clinic. It's because, sorry, not Qigong coaching clinic, Portland Qigong clinic. That what happened was I had to basically educate my clients that they need to pay more attention to themselves. And I didn't tell them, hey, Joe, or hey, Bob, you need to pay attention to yourself now. Go. Because they wouldn't do that. Again, I would ask them questions. So, how much attention do you actually pay to yourself? Do you feel any aches or pains? How do you deal with pain, for example? Do you recognize that pain is a call, a request for attention? That part of the body that is hurting is actually sending signals to the central nervous system. Hey, pay attention here. If the body doesn't receive that attention, it doesn't receive the energy and doesn't experience healing, so it keeps on hurting. If the pain is perceived as the request for attention, and you actually acquiesce or you give attention, then what happens? You actually provide energy to that part of the body. You may also learn something about it that you didn't know before, because attention is prerequisite for learning. You can't really learn anything if you don't pay any attention to it, right? You can't even remember anything you don't pay attention to. So obviously we can learn a great deal more about ourselves, which is also very helpful, not only from point of view of self-healing and self-empowerment, but also spiritual development. Any spiritual discipline or school of thought that is worth its salt is dedicated to self-knowledge. Knowing yourself basically is what most of them admonish or encourage their followers to do. Well, very few of them, if any, actually provide very direct and succinct way to know yourself. How do you get to know yourself? Well, if you ask 100 spiritual teachers, probably 90 of them will say, well, you just need to think more about things. Basically, just say something.
Contemplative.
Either contemplate or maybe ask somebody else, well, what do you think of me? Obviously, what we're doing is we are learning how to learn by focusing our own attention more on ourselves. And as we do that, an amazing thing happens. As we learn more about ourselves, we actually create the interface between the tip of the iceberg that I always use the metaphor of reflecting or representing what we know about ourselves, and the deeper part of the iceberg that we don't know about ourselves. The interface, the layer of ice, so to speak, between the tip and the rest of the iceberg is what allows you to look inside of that iceberg and see what is going on there. What are those unknown parts of myself that I would like to know? What are the resources that perhaps I could tap into? What are the things that would be able to make my life fuller and richer? What is this interface?
Subconscious.
So that's the deeper part of the iceberg, yeah.
Isn't the interface attention itself?
Attention is part of it.
Awareness?
Awareness, thank you.
That's what.
Yes, awareness is the quality of consciousness, is the faculty of consciousness that allows you to get to know something that you didn't know before. So if you become aware of something, by definition, you become conscious of it. So what we do is we develop that awareness interface, becoming more and more self-aware. That is also something that allows us to eventually direct that awareness elsewhere. We start with ourselves, but we don't finish with ourselves. We basically learn how to also refocus our attention on other people and other aspects of our lives, but with that clear awareness that we develop when we're working on ourselves, then we have the clarity that we can communicate with other people, we can see them for who they really are, without all kinds of bizarre filters that we often have tendency to look through. And no assumptions, no judgments, no expectations. We just simply observe the person rather than looking at their mask. We're looking at the person behind the mask. Now, we also have masks. Most of us have. As long as we have a personality, most likely we have a mask. As a matter of fact, personality is the name of the outer layer of the mask, as opposed to the inside of the mask that fits your face, so to speak. What is it called?
Identity.
It's called identity. It's who you think you are, basically. The two sides of the mask, the personality and identity, are still mask.
Exactly.
And as a matter of fact, the more there is a discrepancy between who you think you are, your identity, and who other people think you are, which is your personality, the greater there's going to be internal struggle, conflict, tension. Basically, there is discord. It's not the only source of discord, but it's one of them. And we have to learn how to work with that. And we learn how to make our masks thinner and thinner and thinner, and eventually just peel them off so that we can be maskless. That creates some degree of vulnerability. But it also means that now you can be authentic. And the authenticity is such a high value in my worldview that I focus a lot on it. And also I haven't met a lot of people who would say authenticity doesn't matter. So maybe there are some people out there in the world that don't care about authenticity. I haven't met a lot of them. What we do is we develop the ability to create authenticity by simply peeling the layers of our own mask and discovering that who we thought we were isn't necessarily who we really are. Just like who people thought we were isn't necessarily what we are. So we peel the layers from the outside, the personality, and we peel the layers on the inside, the identity, making this mask thinner and thinner, and eventually realize that at one point or another, it may actually be that the personality and identity are more or less the same. And there is very little need for any kind of pretense or tension. How do you pretend? You need to experience tension, right? So instead of tension, we experience authenticity. And funny, in addition to pretense, we also use the word attention, which is kind of like a negation of tension. And so both of them are really funny ways to play with words. Obviously, the spelling is slightly different. Doesn't matter.
Would that be the beginning ground then? Because you also talk about the ability to shift identity.
Yeah.
So, but
Absolutely.
first, so to be authentic, does that also include the ability to shift identities so that you can? It's like consciousness agility in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Choosing.
Yeah. So you can always put the mask on, like put a hat on, if you are under certain circumstances where you need a certain hat. For example, a hat of a friend. You put a friendly hat. Now, you don't have to be stuck wearing that hat all the time. You can take it off. You can put you can put a hat of an expert in a particular field. You don't have to be wearing that hat of an expert. You can take it off. Some experts, some professions really require a lot of tension and often cause quite a bit of discomfort and pain in a person's body. For example, maybe you know some police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Just being a police officer requires attention. Yes. It actually requires a certain demeanor. It requires certain energetic quality that allows you to perform your duty. But at the same time, if you just stuck wearing that hat when you're not on the job, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You're basically creating undue tension and suffering for yourself. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just like, for instance, any other profession. Let's say you're a judge. Well, just by definition, you have to judge people. So what do? You wear a hat of a judge. You will have a different holding pattern associated with being judgmental or having a certain rule of law that you rely on, basically. Now, that requires a different holding pattern, different state of consciousness. If you get stuck in it, again, going home, forgetting to take that hat off, you'll be judging your family, you'll be judging your friends, you'll be just really judgmental asshole. And so it's absolutely necessary to take that hat off. For example, politicians. There are plenty of politicians that have to wear a mask in public. Now, funny thing, they forget to take that mask off sometimes, quite often, when they're not in public. And so they basically, again, struggle. But also, if the mask is so severely different from who the person is, then there is a question, well, how much does this person just plays the role? Like he's an actor or she's an actor. Like a politician who's one way at home and a totally different way in the political arena can also be called out and said, hey, this person is beating his wife at home, but he is advocating the feminism in political stage. Well, so that would be a major discrepancy. So basically what we do is we learn how to recognize that most people have various types of discrepancies. And we help them identify what their discrepancies are. Because the more discrepancies like this that they have, that they're stuck dealing with day in and day out, the more they have tension, the more they have energy blockages, the more they rely on the same energy center in their body all the time, the more they're stuck in the same state of consciousness all the time, the more they operate in the same holding pattern of tension, which means they basically are constantly hurting themselves. And also they cannot become enlightened. Because I never heard of anyone who would become enlightened just operating in one or two of their chakras. You have to be functional, letting the system balance itself and flow through. So what we do is we basically help people develop that kind of full-bodied functionality. In other words, we help them play with a full deck. If a person just relies on one energy center or another, like we were talking about, relying on just one branch or another branch, that person basically is not playing with a full deck. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does it mean? It means that we provide people an opportunity to just become fully functional human beings, more capable of manifesting their full potential. Now, that's a pretty cool job description, isn't it? So if we realize that our job description as Qigong coaches is not just to help people feel better or help them overcome certain setbacks, we actually have a much more exciting and much more profound job description. Man, we get excited about doing our work. This is the dream job for most people who have trained. This is like an amazing opportunity to really live your life more fully and help other people live life and experience their life and enjoy their lives more fully. And also it has profound spiritual implications because we help people experience more and more enlightenment. We'll talk about it tomorrow in greater detail, but I just wanted to kind of wrap it up so it makes a nice foundation for the rest of our workshop today. Do you guys have any questions about anything that we've covered so far? No? Okay, well, let's take a brief break for a few minutes, drink some tea, use the restroom if you